All right, so let's get into it here. We're going to play a lot of audio as we move through the show. There obviously were some pivotal moments from the press conference yesterday, including, why Howie and Jeff Lurie wanted to retain Sirianni, Howie pumping up the stretch of 26-5 before the downturn and what that means. Sirianni admitting that the new offensive coordinator is going to be a play caller. Sirianni admitting that the offense this year that just passed wasn't good enough, to which I say, well, why didn't you freaking change it a month ago? Like, what the hell, man? But anyway, we'll get to all that. But let's also hear, your reaction on the press conference, the good, the bad, the ugly, the whatevers, whatever you got at 215-592-9494. John, my main reaction to the press conference is I'm going to say two things. First, I thought those two guys looked like two sad sacks of potatoes. I mean, it was like there was no life there. It was like both of them had been zapped.
You could see that there was a toll taken.
Horrible toll. I mean, the visual was really apparent, and it also came through in the audio form. But the visual especially, to me, it was like two guys beaten down, really beaten down.
I had a sense of sympathy from the start. The moment that I saw Howie.
I agree with you. Well, for me, on both of them. Both of them.
I had seen Nick more recently, and so I'd grown accustomed to the dark circles.
That's
and
right.
Just the haggard look.
Which a lot of coaches
the season
haven't.
took it out of them.
Even when coaches are doing good, sometimes you're tired because you're just working for 18, 19 hours straight for 6 straight months. You get tired.
Right.
But it's like neither one of them had any vibrancy to them. It was amazing. So that to me was, believe it or not, just takeaway number one. But beyond that, the main thing that really hit me is that I thought it's very apparent Lurie and Howie have essentially emasculated Nick Sirianni as the head coach of the team. I mean, it was so clearly discussed that the new coordinator is going to come in and call plays. And that tells me in spades, Lurie and Howie looked at Sirianni in a private room and told him, "Thou shalt not call plays anymore," which tells me that Lurie and Howie simply do not believe in Nick Sirianni as a play designer or as a play caller anymore. And they probably hired him 3 years ago, in all likelihood. They probably hired him 3 years ago thinking that they were getting a young, cutting-edge offensive mind.
That was the plan.
And
that was the hope.
They must be so disappointed. And so now, Sirianni assumes this, it almost feels like a figurehead sort of role, like a CEO type role. Now, let me be clear. Can it work? Sure. It can work. That's not a completely outrageous model in pro football, but it's such a deviation, I believe, from what the initial intent was. And,
I think that's a great point, Joe. It is such a deviation from the initial intent. The initial intent was, obviously, Andy Reid, the up and comer, the guy who would be the builder of staff after staff.
And
after
it makes me question, what do they view him as the master of? Is it as simple? I mean, because here's to me, I think the only two categories left. Is it as simple as culture guy?
Complicity with the front office.
Well, that too.
I'm not saying that, the master of complicity with the front office.
Right.
Really?
No,
that's the answer.
No, it may be. But I mean, you don't choose to keep someone just because of that. Because at the end of the day, Jeff Lurie and Howie Roseman don't stand on the sideline. And certainly if you reach the Super Bowl, they don't coach in it. Like, someone's got to manage that. To me, it strikes me as the two things, I guess, that are left are a believer in him as culture guy and believer in him as game management guy. And I do think he's excellent game manager guy. Culture guy obviously took a hit with how the season ended. I mean, I even wonder and I mean this, and I'm asking this rhetorically, but I'm going to then answer it. Who does the new offensive coordinator report to?
Well,
he reports directly to the general manager.
Mystery. Yeah.
He's going to report directly to the general manager. So, John, my takeaway is the emasculation of Sirianni. And and also
they're missing a lot.
Go ahead,
Joe. They're missing a lot of these they've got a blind spot. The emasculation of Nick Sirianni should be a major point of contention. Like, you do not want to emasculate your head coach. The reason Dan Campbell's such a great, Swami in Detroit is he's been the opposite of emasculated. Look, this organization remained healthier because Doug Peterson didn't stoop in that meeting with Jeffrey. Now we have a stooper. And it brings the question, what wouldn't Nick do to, hang on to that job? I think we're at the end of a thread here. Like, there's not much left that he can do to hang on. It's almost where, the job will be taken from him. But the thing that struck me so hard yesterday, Nick is asked how his job has changed this year,
This year meaning for next season.
Right, with the new plan. You started this press conference with an apology for taking so long. Hey, it's been like 9 days. We were in the dark. You'd think you would have had a chance to sort of like gather your thoughts on what you're going to be doing differently and what the approach is going to be. And he tells us he might drop in on some defensive meetings.
Yeah, that was bad. That was really bad.
That's it.
That was bad.
That's the answer. That'll fix it. That'll fix everything. So now he's not only clueless, he's spineless because of the stooping.
Well, I won't say spineless. No, I don't think spineless.
He's going to be
I don't
friendless
think spineless
if he keeps cutting all of his coaches. Like they keep asking him to do this dirty work. I feel so bad for Nick Sirianni and what he's asked to do behind closed doors. This is tough stuff, and he talked about it a little bit yesterday. He is a sympathetic figure for me, and this is absurd. What redeeming quality does he bring to this team other than compliance with Halfrey? He's the whole idea with the new offensive coordinator. I hope we can grab a good one. How do you sell ownership of an offense to this new offensive coordinator? How do you really lure one of the top shelf offensive coordinators in here if it's not going to be his offense anyway, if it's going to always come back to being the Eagles offense? And who knows, Nick Sirianni might steal the play calling or yell no into the headset at any point in time. We need to hire an offensive coordinator to fix the offense because this staff does not know how.
I agree with you on that,
but
and I think that's pretty clear.
This offensive coordinator who fixes the offense doesn't get ownership of the offense. It's all really broken.
But you know what, John? He actually will. I think the new flow chart is offensive coordinator in charge of offense.
He said it. Nick said it yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, they want Nick.
Pretty much.
Said it to the world. He said, I want to hire a guy who's going to be in quote unquote, to be in charge of the offense, to call plays, quote unquote.
And the big problem is when he was asked, Nick, what are you in charge of? It was just like he didn't know. And,
he didn't.
It's been 9 or 10 days.
John,
he really
let
doesn't
me ask
know.
you this.
They want Nick to be the leader of men type head coach. They want Nick to be Mike Tomlin. They want Nick to be John Harbaugh, Dan Campbell. Those coaches carry gravity. Tomlin and Harbaugh because of decades of success in this league. Dan Campbell because, in part, he was a big, burly, ass-kicking tight end in this league as a player, and that's the way he looks at the world now. He can't see it any other way. Halfrey can't see how critical it is that Dan Campbell has not been emasculated by his front office.
Right.
It's been the opposite that's been true. Dan Campbell was an NFL tight end ass kicker to start. He was the man. Everyone respected him. He's now in this semi-swami spot that everyone just adores him. He can do no wrong. Let's just say our Coach Hutt's a different silhouette right now. His current heading is in the wrong direction. Right now, his current heading is blame sponge. That's what he has become within this organization. Do you respect him more today? Do you respect him, Nick Sirianni, more today after listening to what his plan is moving forward?
Look, I know.
How do you feel the players feel moving forward? I know that they've gone and they're away and they're doing their own thing. They're keeping track of the situation. They understand what's going on. They were interested. They wanted to see what the organization had to say yesterday, and the organization failed in their presentation.
That's fascinating. Look, we want to hear from you at 215-592-9494. We're all going to react, including to what John just said there. There was a lot in there. Your thoughts, not only on what John just said, but on what you heard yesterday. Speaking of hearing it, we're going to play a lot of audio of it as we move through the program. Your phone calls on all of it. 215-592-9494. What stood out to you, and what do you think it means about the future of our beloved Eagles franchise, which right now, I mean, it's a downtime. There is no doubt. What do you make of it all? Joe DeCamara, Jon Ritchie, 94 WIP.